Bees are important to the environment, they're important to an economy. Much of what we eat is pollinated by bees, and so perhaps they're the unsung heroes of our diet and what we eat. It's quite exciting to take a hive, put a queen in it and help build that hive up to be strong, and then have that hive produce a crop, and then be able to take that crop, put it in a pot and sell it to people. They get to enjoy some fruits of the land. I got into beekeeping kind of by accident really, because my parents moved us into a house here in Foxton, and it just happened to be right beside a honey factory. So as a teenager growing up, they were always in need of someone to come out and give them a hand. Eventually I went and purchased 50 hives and just started building from there, and now we have around 800 beehives that we've managed to obtain. Manuka honey is the type of honey. It comes from the Manuka tree, or the tea tree, is also known as. The bees will go to the little white flowers on the Manuka tree, and they will gather the nectar, and then they'll take that nectar back to the hive. It's going to end up becoming Manuka honey. Manuka's a kind of a unique tree because it's really only found in New Zealand and some parts of Australia. Typically you need to go to somewhat remote places to find it, up into the back blocks and the back country, tracks, up hills and down valleys and across rivers. The conditions are not always ideal. You've got to be very careful of the weather. Most beekeepers would use four-wheel drive trucks that they can put even chains on to access the sites where we go to get to Manuka. So part of the challenge of being a beekeeper is the logistics of moving honey, moving hives, and having the equipment to do that, and having the machinery and the trucks to do that, which sometimes can be quite challenging if you get stuck, for example. So we have to negotiate all of what nature throws at us. When we target the Manuka, we are travelling probably about 2.5 to 3 hours from our location. Out in these areas it's quite good because it's all just the Manuka that is growing and some other maybe native trees, but there's no chemicals that are around, no pesticides or anything like that are being used, at least on the property where we produce our honey. Generally when I go to sleep at night, I've got a plan for what I want to do the next day. That may require me waking up rather early, but I'm always kind of excited to get out and do whatever we're going to do, whether it be feeding the beehives or moving beehives or taking off honey. There's a lot of variety with beekeeping. Sometimes we're building boxes, sometimes we're painting, other times we're building fences. Then of course we're doing the bee work. A beekeeping season for us starts in the spring, where we have to help build the colonies up. They've shrunk down during the winter, so we feed them and we manipulate the hives to build them up and get them strong. Then we take them into the areas where we're going to be collecting the honey, and we put honey boxes on as the honey comes in. Then we'll take the honey off at the end of summer and bring it back to the factory, extract the honey. We then move the hives back and put them into their winter locations. We winter them down with plenty of honey stores and food, and make sure that the hives are healthy to get through the winter, and then have a break, and then in the spring we start all over again. When you're taking off honey, it can be quite intense. There could be some robbing that goes on and maybe a lot of bees flying around. You have to put on another layer of clothing, make sure you're wearing gloves so that you don't get stung. We will start in the mornings, try before the sun comes up, where it's cooler, because it can be hot and heavy work, and it maybe stop many of the bees from coming and wanting to rob the honey. Bees will have a tendency, when there's no nectar flow on, to want to continue to pursue a food supply. When you're taking honey off, bees from other hives will smell the honey and they will want to come and get some for themselves. and sometimes that can cause somewhat of a robbing frenzy, they might call it, where there's a lot of bees buzzing quite frantically around, and it seems like you're in a cloud of bees. The smoker is used to try and drive the bees back into the hive, or just push them away and down into the frame so that they're not coming out and being too aggressive. It helps us to work the bee colonies in a pleasant way. Neglect is going to be no good for a beehive, and then on the opposite extreme, interference is going to be no good. So we have to have a balance between managing our hives and then also leaving the hives alone. Opening up the hives, putting a feeder in, pollen patty, some pollen substitute on there for them. What we want them to do is to not starve. If they come back and we get some bad weather and there's not enough honey in here, they'll eat the honey and they'll starve. The queen will basically unite the rest of the colony through her unique pheromones, the scent that she gives off. She will not hydrate herself, she will not feed herself, that's all done by attendant bees. She will be groomed by them, and her role is really to lay eggs and to produce the offspring. This is the brood here.
That's where they lay the eggs?
Yep, well that's the baby bees are in here. And then there's a pollen about on the outside, and then there's honey. So here she is. Here's the queen.
Where is she?
Queen bee.
Oh.
See her? In the winter months, the colony will shrink down into the cluster. Then in the spring, once the weather starts to get warmer, the colony will start to expand. As you peak up into the peak of the season, you may end up with 60, 70,000 bees on average in a strong colony. Is that 48 million? Unless my math is wrong, I'm thinking that's about 48 million hungry mouths to feed. 48 million workers. Some people complain that they have 20 workers, but we have a lot of little workers to take care of. That's what you get for not being humble. Sting on the lip. That's God punishing me. Right. Our operation requires labour. You can't do everything yourself. I have someone who helps me out on a regular basis, and then when we need more workers, I generally raid from the children, the slave labour. Now before we go out, we've got to make sure you kind of got to limber up, because we're doing a bit of Rio. And so we get the family involved and friends and people who would like to come out and help. It's not always easy work. It can be hot and heavy, and of course sometimes you get bee stings, so not everyone wants to come out and do bee work, but a lot of people do and they enjoy the work. Manuka village, we own the beehives, we own the land, we own the trucks, we are involved in the extraction process ourselves. We then have the honey packaged into pots, labelled and ready for sale. The honey never leaves our care. We can guarantee that what it says on the label is what you'll be getting. Hopefully that gives the consumer good confidence in our product.